So you've probably been running your store now for a little bit of time, and now you think it's the right time to go ahead and exit and sell your store. So if you want to sell your store for as much as possible, you're in the right place. So this is how you're going to sell your dropshipping business. So I've actually been able to sell my dropshipping stores multiple times before, and here are the actual bank statements, the summaries, the escrows. Now there's a few more than these, but this is just a general overview, a little bit of social proof, so you know that I know what I'm talking about with this kind of subject. The thing is, most people only sell their business once or twice in their whole life, and it is a big thing to do, but I've actually been able to do this with the sides of the stores quite a few times now. For example, if you just list everything up nice and quickly, your brand is making 20, 30K net a month. Some people are virtually giving this away for $50,000. On the other hand, you can easily get 2, 3, 400K as long as you put the right systems in place and you list these up in the right way. Now, one thing that really frustrates me about this whole space is you spend day and night building out a brand, getting your custom packaging, working on your customer support, building a great product, but when it comes to actually selling your business at the end of it, you just go ahead and rush the whole process, listing it on Flipper, setting a minimum bid and seeing where it goes up to. And simply, if your brand is doing those kind of numbers, you're losing out on thousands, hundreds of thousands, or potentially millions of dollars, depending on where your store is doing and how much it's actually making. Firstly, what you have to go ahead and do is get a profit and loss statement together. Now, if you're just looking at your bank account each month, and something that I've done from pretty early on, if the numbers go up, it's a good month. If the numbers go down, it's a bad month. It's simply not a way to go ahead and operate your business if you want to go ahead and sell it. Now, if you haven't kept track on your financials, you don't use something like True Profit and Loss, and there's tons of other apps that do the exact same thing, you need to start putting this into a Google Sheet or a Google Doc. Now, if you don't have a profit and loss statement, I'll link one down below, and it's 100% free. It's the ones that I use for all of my stores. And what I'm also gonna give you is my copy and paste strategy to secure a maximum exit. It's everything from contracts to legal templates to different groups where you can go ahead and post and sell your brand in a fast amount of time without having to deal with all the brokers and the legal process. It's not gonna make total sense unless you watch the whole presentation here. The thing is, with more and more stores being listed, more people getting into dropshipping, more people knowing about the whole space of e-commerce, 8 out of 10 businesses on these marketplaces will not sell in the first 12 months. That means either you're gonna have to start reducing your price again and again to get a quick sale, or you're not gonna sell at all. So you need to find a way to go ahead and stand out from the rest of the crowd and increase your asking price while at the same time being able to sell it. And there's actually a pretty simple and repeatable system which I've been using again and again. It's one that I like to call the spider business. And the trick to the spider business is to not be one. Now this graphic, although simple, is what a pre-exit business normally looks like. One that's not being sold. So you normally have your dropshipping store, which is all based around you. You have your web designer, your supplier, your media buyer, somebody making your ads, your creative team, maybe other moving parts as well. Especially if you're doing more and more numbers, you have your Pinterest rep, you have your Facebook ad rep, and you have all these moving pieces in between. But if one day, if you become really sick, you're not able to answer any messages, all of these systems start to fail slowly. Yes, your ads aren't just gonna turn off in one day. Your credit card statement can survive a few days without you, but people like your supplier, your VA are gonna wonder what's happened, and eventually your spider collapses. And unfortunately, your dreams of a Lamborghini Urus kind of exit is gone out the window. Your media buyer's gone, the supplier doesn't know what to do, the web designer is there, and this is putting yourself in the mind of a buyer. Now, if you're looking to go ahead and buy a business, one key question which any buyer is going to ask is how reliant is the business on yourself? The last thing that they want to go ahead and do is buy a business where you're going to go ahead and remove yourself, put yourself on a yacht in Greece, or go out to Dubai, and the rest of the business just collapses all without you. Now, there's always going to be a period where you stay on for 30, 60, or 90 days, but you want to look beyond that because most of the time it's going to take them much longer than that to go ahead and pay off the amount that they've paid for the business. So instead, you should build something which is sustainable for a business, or a two-headed spider. Although it's going to be less efficient, before the exit, you need to get 2 operators in, or even just one. They're going to go ahead and run the business for you. Then you can separate it out into 2 teams, potentially your creative and ad side, and then you have your development team working on behalf of any freelancers, anybody building any funnels, product pages, and then on the other side of things, you can have customer support, suppliers, all speaking back and forth with a VA as well. And this can all be simply based around VAs managing the whole process and just having a leader VA or somebody who knows the space well working part-time in this whole venture. So if you're able to go ahead and do this, you're able to secure a much higher exit in a very short amount of time. But this alone isn't going to secure a fast exit, a huge multiple. It's definitely going to assist it, but it's not the be all and end all. You see, a fortified spider is going to lead to a higher exit just like this one. This offer was actually accepted for Shymop, one of the businesses all the way back here, and was $202,000 in an all cash exit. Now, we didn't take this offer in the end, but it was one of the offers on the table. So how do you go ahead and build out this whole freelancer team? Now, there's all the main sites. You can use Upwork, Fiverr, LinkedIn, People Per Hour, Online Jobs, or even Twitter, which I've been using quite a bit lately. And here are some of the roles which you would go ahead and need. Now, it can be super simple. Everybody doesn't need to be full-time. You don't need a huge operation if your store is doing 5 or 10K a month, but you need something in place to go ahead and present it as more of a business rather than just a one-off dropshipping store, which is pumped and dumped in 3 months. Now, apart from these general roles, you need somebody who actually understands the business a little bit better. Where I would go ahead and look there is either on Facebook groups, in e-commerce channels, or on Discords, where you can join something like an e-commerce mastermind or an e-commerce group where people are sharing value and knowledge, and find somebody who's on the way up who could potentially manage and operate that brand a little bit better for you. Now, once you've gone ahead and done that, you need to go ahead and start listing your business. Now, these are the 6 main marketplaces which I would go ahead and use, and these are absolute non-negotiables. Just as if you're posting organic content on your dropshipping store, you want to make sure you're posting out to more and more platforms. You don't want to be just on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, and the same is said about selling your business. The main platforms which I would go ahead and use are Flipper and Acquire, but the rest are still all very important. The most difficult here is Boopos because it's a financing platform. So they actually give all the credit, virtually free money for any of the buyers to go ahead and buy your business. So checks are much longer. It's a much lengthier due diligence process, which means they're just verifying everything that you say. But you need to be posting out to all of these platforms if you want to secure the highest chance to find a buyer. But the good thing for you is this listing process is very quick as long as you follow a 5-step template. You have your main company overview at the top of any description and listing, any growth opportunities that you can go ahead and see. Maybe you're just running TikTok ads or Facebook ads right now. What other platforms could you go ahead and expand to? What other products could you go ahead and add? Is there other opportunities there that you could potentially build onto? Is there a different language that you can go onto? Another product? There's lots of different things that you can get to mind, and exciting the buyer further is going to increase the chances that they're going to give you an offer. Then you want to have some clear finances and data points. Lots of people are going to want to jump on a call with you. That's great, that's fantastic. But as a business owner, you don't have 10 hours a day to jump on calls with these potential buyers because other things are going to start suffering. So just keep it very simple. Your finances, your data, everyone's going to try to make the numbers as good as possible, and that's totally normal, but put real numbers in and don't create fluff around the data, explaining each point one by one. Give an overall summary. If there's a dip, explain the dip. If it's consistent, explain the reason for the consistency, and go on from there to the real reason for selling your business. Now, if you just want a cash exit, say that as simple as possible. I see other opportunities elsewhere. I still think there's good value in the brand, but I want to sell for this price. Now, having a higher asking price to back this up would easily verify it, but for whatever your reason is, you can go ahead and list it in this section. Now, finally, to wrap it all off, you just have your tech stack, which is what technology platforms you use. If you're using Shopify, put Shopify, WooCommerce, etc., etc. And then different kind of apps that you're using, Klaviyo, SMS Bump, abandoned cart sequences, all types of Shopify apps, chuck that in there as well. And then at the very end, have your valuation reasoning. If you can just pull some numbers on average multiples for e-commerce brands, although they're so far strung off, it's just going to further back your claims further. And you can explain then a few more growth opportunities, which you mentioned before. But to go ahead and reach that higher asking price, you need to actually explain a few things that you've done to the business. Now, maybe you've already done some of these, but I came up with 9 ways which I've used to go ahead and increase the valuations of my brands in the past when I've gone ahead and flipped an e-commerce business over a short period of time, which is very similar to real estate flipping. All I'm doing is buying into a brand, expanding certain aspects of it, building out new systems. Maybe I'm developing a new app, and then I'm selling it on for a fast profit. So here are a few ways which you could go ahead and do. So price testing is one main one, and one key opportunity which I would look at. As you're able to really determine your price in the market, you can show that effort and time has been put into it. You can potentially look at quantity breaks as well, selling in bundles, try to increase the AOV on the store, and different other things that you can do related to the pricing of your products. Launch on new sales channels. Maybe you're launching onto a new ad platform, a new language, a new hosting platform. What other things can you do to go ahead and be in more places and be seen more places? Then you want to increase your social media presence as much as possible. Now, having an Instagram page with 20,000 followers in the same industry as you, which you could go ahead and buy for $600 or $700, could potentially increase your multiple by 0.1 or 0.2 at the very end. Now, if you're selling a brand which is doing $100,000 a year, this could be a 20% increase just from buying an Instagram page for $600 or $700. So try to expand your presence on both paid and organic social platforms. Setting up different affiliate Affiliate programs, developing new products are all part of the process of building a brand rather than a store. And if you're able to build an iOS app or an Android app to go ahead and link with your brand itself, that's something that could go ahead and cost $2,000 or $3,000, but could pay off hugely in the exit itself, because it feels like another sales channel, another way to increase customer retention, and for a buyer really stands out from the rest. I saw this recently with a toothbrush brand, similar to the big name electric toothbrushes, and what it did is simply just paired with the product itself, show you different brushing techniques, and really just link with the overall product experience. And that, as a buyer, although I didn't think, oh, that's the reason I'm gonna go ahead and buy it, I could easily see how that would make a first time buyer think. And going through the financials further, it seemed like a pretty decent brand packaged up together in a nice presentation. The thing is, there are so many different things to do, but here are just a few ideas, which if you went to go and do absolutely all of them on this list, you're virtually guaranteed to increase your asking price. In terms of the negotiations, make sure there's clear room for opportunity and explain the reasoning behind the asking price each time. If you can set up a Calendly or some sort of game plan together with the buyer themselves and understand their situation further, that's another way to save as much time as possible. Now, many people try to wait until the very peak to go ahead and sell up. And most of the time, you're not actually gonna hit it. You're either gonna be slightly on the way up or slightly on the way down. If you're on the way down, your multiples drop in almost by a weekly basis. But if you're already on the way up, that's only gonna further benefit it. And the difference between going up and actually on the peak itself isn't gonna make too much of a difference. Now, not all stores go down, some last almost forever, but on a general case basis, which I've seen with most dropshipping brands, that's what I would go ahead and do. Never say that we need an offer by the end of today, if not the deal's off. Only use that as a very last resort, and try to keep this relationship positive with as many buyers as possible, because you never know if you go ahead and create a store later on and you want a new pool of buyers. These can be super useful. And now, selling your brand, you wanna find the right buyer for you. There's a few different ways to go ahead and finance different businesses to go ahead and buy, which I explained in another video before, where I went to go ahead and buy Heaven Chocolate for a majority seller financing. And for me, in that case, with a high risk business, not doing a crazy amount, that made sense. But for you in a different situation and you just want that cash to buy the Lamborghini as quickly as possible, maybe you just want all the cash now and you're happy to have a lower price overall. At the end of the day, you want the buyer to go ahead and do well with the store. So try to build some sort of relationship where you can go ahead and teach them further. If they are new to the space entirely, try to put a system in place, as well as the ones that you provided earlier on. But maybe you can go ahead and run the store for a profit share. You can get an agency involved, take a different cut in that process as well. And if you're really desperate to sell, don't show it. By saying that you're desperate, you try to sell quickly, is never going to speed up the process. Contracts are going to take time no matter what, even by using set templates. But all it does to a buyer is make them think that you're desperate to sell. They can get more money off the business's price, which you're asking right now, and automatically draws red flags to why you're trying to sell so quickly. But when it comes to finishing the deal, get it done fast, use something like DocuSign to go ahead and sign it all up. And you can always hire a lawyer to go ahead and jump on a Zoom call as well. As far as the closing of the deal, you go through an LOI, a letter of intent. It's a non-legal agreement, which just outlines what you both agree on, what the terms are. You're gonna be getting a lot of these through. Maybe you want an NDA before that as well, where you go ahead and say that they can't share any of the information, but chances are if they do, there's not much you can go ahead and actually do about it. Then you need an SPA, a seller purchase agreement, or an APA, an assets purchase agreement, or there's actually another one, a BPA, a business purchase agreement. Depending on what you actually try to go ahead and do, sell the whole asset itself, sell part of the assets, or sell all of the assets. That will depend on which agreement you choose here. Now, all this agreement is an expanded version of the LOI. Then from there, you'll pay into an escrow.com account, or just any type of escrow account where you can put in all the details and logins. They can pay in the money and they'll release them simultaneously. Once they're happy, you'll be released all the money. And then normally there'll be some type of handover period or earn out where either 10 to 20% of the business's price or an additional amount is left there for you to stay on an additional 30 to 90 days. Now, that's just to make sure the person who bought the store actually knows what they're doing. They have the transfer of information, because at the end of the day, no matter how well they know the space, you'll know your individual business better than they do. Now, there is another way to go ahead and sell your store. If you want to cut out all the hassle of finding a buyer, implementing these changes in, and simply just don't want to deal with all the back and forth with the buyers themselves, I actually have a different offer here where we'll go ahead and build out these systems in place, and then we'll sell your store all based on the percentage of the exit. We're starting to offer this more as a service to the businesses themselves, where we can build all of these systems in place. But we're super selective right now, so don't book if you're not running a digital company, a software company, an agency, or an e-commerce brand. Although we're mainly targeted towards e-commerce brands, your business is not older than 3 months old. Now, simply, it doesn't have the tracking records. It's still virtually in the idea phase. and you're simply not going to be able to achieve, in most cases, a really good exit out of this. And then finally, if you're not serious in actually selling, we're just wasting each other's time. So if you're not seriously wanting to sell your company right now, save us both a little bit of time. I'm happy to chat through Instagram, just send me a message and I'll always be happy to help. But don't use this as a way to go ahead and contact me for other questions outside of actually selling your business. And the worst case is we'll give you a free listing template for your business with all the breakdowns which you could go ahead and do to go ahead and increase your selling price as much as possible, as well as all the resources you need to go ahead and start listing on these marketplaces. The best case, of course, being that your business is sold in the next 30 days with all the contracts signed and the money in your account. Now, if you are interested in that, I'll leave a booking link down below. All you have to do is just fill in a few simple questions and I'll see you in the next video.